Welcome to Rapid Rehousing Workshop number 1, Vocationalizing the System, where we're going to talk about employment and rapid rehousing. I want to introduce your presenters really quick and then get into some, go over the agenda and get into some of the Zoom unique tech things that you should know about for this training. So I recognize a lot of your names and I'm really excited to see you here, but for those of you who don't know Home Base, we are a nonprofit based in San Francisco. We work with homeless systems of care in the Bay Area and across California and also nationally. In Santa Clara County, we work with the County Office of Supportive Housing to support homeless housing and service providers in the county. We do that in a couple of different ways. We offer an annual series of free trainings. We're here to support you in any way you need that we can do. At any point over our email or our phone contacts. So if you ever have questions about federal grant compliance, best practices, the way things are done in other areas, we have contacts all over the country and also deep knowledge of grant compliance. So all of those things we're happy to help with at any time. This is the first of a little mini series of trainings we're offering this year that are targeted and geared towards rapid rehousing providers and staff of rapid rehousing programs. This first training is going to cover employment-focused content. The next training, which is next week, is going to cover behavioral health and navigating behavioral health services in Santa Clara County. And then we are imminently about to announce the third training, which will be the first week in June, and it will focus on locating clients who have been referred to your rapid rehousing program. So we'll get some of the rapid rehousing client locators in to talk to you about that. My name is Eli, and my colleagues from Home Base, Monica and Nicole, are going to be helping to facilitate the training today.
Morning, everyone.
And we also are so fortunate to have some expert presenters from JobTrain here with us today, Art and Peter, and I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter. I am a youth career development specialist at JobTrain. We'll talk a little more about that in a sec. Is Art here? So Art, you're either muted or maybe you stepped away for a second, but we can touch base in a bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely have great opportunities to get to know both Peter and Art as they present the content for the training. So thank you so much, Peter. Okay. The agenda that we're going to cover today includes a quick overview of the approach, the general priorities and approach towards rapid rehousing, and specifically income and employment in rapid rehousing in Santa Clara County in our community. I'm going to cover that. I'm just going to be pretty quick just to get everybody on the same page and remind us all of those great best practices and priorities that we talk about at almost every training. And then JobTrain will talk about their work, who they are, and specifically about their work during the COVID-19 response and how that is the same and continuing, but also is going to look a little bit different. And then JobTrain will help start a conversation about career self-efficacy for your clients and also your role in supporting your clients as we focus the system on employment growth for rapid rehousing clients. We will be doing several breakout sessions during the training, one at the beginning and then one longer discussion session at the end, where we'll use Zoom to break you up into groups. So that's when you're going to really be able to talk to your colleagues and get to know some new people, hopefully. Just a few tech things before we jump into this agenda. We are recording this training and we'll make the recording available on the COC website. The chat box, which we'll be using to get your questions and your responses to our questions, that chat box will not be recorded. We're not going to be posting the chat anywhere. And when we put you in small groups, that conversation is also not going to be recorded. It's just going to be, the recording is just going to be the main room when we're presenting, and that's what we'll be posting on the website, so you have access to it later. You're all muted, as I mentioned, and we ask that you stay muted. There's a few points of the training where we're going to turn your microphones on. It's not that we don't want to hear from you, but with about 40 or 50 folks in the room, we want to make sure that things stay manageable in terms of sound. We'll also have one 5-minute break about halfway through, and we're going to ask that you please, when we send you out in the breaks, try not to close your Zoom and get out of the meeting during that break. It'll be a lot quicker for you to get back in if you leave the Zoom open and just maybe mute and or stay muted and go and do what you need to do. And we will be starting promptly at the 5 minutes when we come back from that break. If you have any questions during the training, or if there are you're having any technical issues, questions about content, questions about Zoom, whatever your questions you have, please use the chat box. We're going to be monitoring the chat box throughout the training, and we'll be pausing periodically to address content questions. But we also will have someone monitoring that chat box throughout the training. So if you have technical questions or other unrelated questions, we'll handle those as best we can. So for questions, comments, and responses, tech issues, obviously you're going to be using that chat box. To find that, you should see that Zoom control bar that at this point in the COVID-19 response you're probably very familiar with. If you want to open up the chat, you click on that chat icon that the purple arrow is pointing to there. We want to get you started getting to know each other and also make sure you know where that chat box is. So I'm going to ask you to actually use that chat box to tell us a little bit about yourself. Specifically, go ahead and find the chat box. You can do this while I'm talking. Find the chat box and type in a couple words, 2 or 3 words that describe your job. This could be your title, if that's what you're comfortable with. It could be what you love about your job. It could be what your work is, just describing what you do every day. It could be what you think the value of your job is to the community, whatever that is. Type that in the chat box now. We want to start getting to know each other. All right. Excellent. Seeing some folks. Awesome. So we've got case manager, housing advocates, case managers from different program types. Awesome. Residential coordinator, resident advocate. Awesome. Seeing client focused. Yeah. Aftercare program manager, so people working with clients in different phases, people working with clients to find housing, resident coordinator, resident advocate, people working with clients who are in housing currently, aftercare, community outreach specialist, fantastic. Awesome, so we can see from the chat responses, and thank you, keep them coming, see from the chat responses that you all have a broad range of experiences and ways that you work with clients. But what you share is that you're working with a population of clients that is very vulnerable and is, on the whole, facing a similar range of challenges. All right, so thank you for that. And remember, if you have questions or comments throughout the training, that's where you're going to put them in the chat box. Okay, so our goals for you today, wherever you're coming from, whatever your role is, however you're working with clients, is for throughout this training for you to get more comfortable and to know how to support your clients, to utilize JobTrain as a resource. That's one of our goals. And also for you to be able to recognize and apply the concept of career self-efficacy in your work with your clients. You're all working with clients who very likely at some point are going to need some level of help with career development, with employment growth. And the tools and the concepts that JobTrain is going to start a conversation about today, we think can be very helpful to you in that, no matter how you're working with your clients. So I want to, before we get into my quick intro bit, I want to get a little better sense again of who is in the room. So we've talked about what you do, how you would describe your job. And I want to hear from you using the poll that just popped up on your screen about how long have you worked in any type of housing program, supporting any client population that is unhoused, formerly unhoused, or even experiencing housing instability if we have any homeless prevention providers in the room. Go ahead and, awesome, I see a lot of you are responding to that poll. Go ahead and put your answer in. I am going to display the overall responses, but these are not tracked to you. This is completely anonymous, so feel free to put them in. And seeing it slowing down, so I'll give you about 5 more seconds to put your responses in. And I'm going to open that up. So you can see we have a broad range of experience levels in the room today, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want. This also, I mean, shows that we have such a depth of experience and I imagine a breadth as well. And hopefully in these breakout groups that we have, you're going to have a chance to do some peer sharing to share that experience that you have, that you bring to the room. So thank you so much for that. You'll see a couple, those polls pop up at a couple points in the training as well. All right. So as I mentioned, just quickly, I'm going to go through this very quickly. I want to remind us all of the priorities and the approaches to rapid rate housing that are shared by most of the funding streams that support rapid rehousing in this community. I know that the federal funding streams that we see a lot of, COC, program funding, ESG, SSVF, the approaches that work best in those and that are most supported by sort of national best practices really align with these local community priorities. And for those of you who were able to attend the joint County of Santa Clara and City of San Jose training that they offered for their rapid rehousing providers, I think a lot of this is going to be very familiar because those two local funding providers really share these core values. It might even sound familiar coming out of my mouth. You probably have heard me say this before, but bear with me. Rapid rehousing in Santa Clara County really adopts and embraces a housing first approach, understanding that every human being is ready to be in housing and that people can best and most quickly address their underlying stability needs and those things that are going to help them stay in housing once they are safe and secure and in a unit of their own. That rapid rehousing really needs to be flexible and tailored to client needs, particularly in the Bay Area and in Santa Clara County, where we have clients with such a broad range of needs that are being referred to rapid rehousing, that some clients may be able to locate housing and be in a place to assume sort of their housing stability independently within 6-8 months. But some clients are going to need that 18-24 months that is allowed by a lot of the funding streams. That clients don't all need the same things. Some may need really deep behavioral health services. Some may not need many at all. Some may need really deep employment support. Some may not need that. And the best way to make rapid rehousing effective for each individual client is to focus on what each client needs. To do that, you all are problem solving. Right? Every client has barriers to housing stability, and you're working with your client to help them identify those barriers, set their own goals, and then be that problem solving partner. So this is your goal. These are some of the resources I know about, some of the ways you might address that barrier. And as you're doing that, always focusing on connections for long-term stability. We talk a lot about connecting folks to resources in the community for food stability, community connections, emergency supports, things like that. Long-term stability is also obviously about income, particularly in this area, getting to a place where that client has the income to maintain housing independently. We know that there is a severe lack of extremely low income and very low income affordable housing in this area, across the whole Bay Area. And while local jurisdictions are trying to address that, and nonprofit providers are trying to address that, this often requires very creative problem solving, finding low enough cost housing for clients, as well as trying to increase income. Speaking of income, we have a few quick highlights that come from a system perspective and also from the level of a rapid rehousing program priorities about the importance of focusing on income. So first, tracking income. This means every time a client comes in, assessing and documenting in some way, what level of income are they coming in with? Do they have any income? Do they have no income? What are the sources of income? And really documenting that and tracking it. And then continuing to do that as changes happen with that client. Ideally, income growth, but whatever those changes are, documenting and making sure you have a record of the client's income story during the program. So it's very important to track income, but why? And this is, I want you to throw in the chat box your perspective. Why do you think it's important to track income? Go ahead and do that now. What, from your perspective as a provider, as staff, as a human being who has income of their own, why is it important for rapid rehousing programs to track income like that? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You can't budget. You can't help a client budget if you and they don't share that understanding of what their income is. You can't budget if you don't know the income. What else? Yeah, yeah, to support budgeting, to support that housing stability plan. More information is better for sure. Yep, understanding what their ability to pay for their needs is. Yeah, definitely. A lot about client self-sufficiency, gauging their viable cost of living for sure. Yeah, future planning for the use of your funds, figuring out whether the use of funds as currently is effective for sure. Yeah, definitely can help get other services. So knowing your client's income can help know what other resources and services you're eligible for sure. Awesome. Yeah, all excellent points. I want to highlight that this is, it's actually usually a funding requirement, whether it's COC or ESG. Some of the large local funding sources require you to track income. So that is a reason to do it. Also, as you've pointed out, it's really useful. It's useful information for you and the client as you're working with them on budgeting and projecting their ability to pay for housing now and in the future as a starting place for employment planning. And also, as someone pointed out, to understand how effective the services you're providing in your program are being for your clients. And that allows you to say, yes, we're doing a great job. Like, look, funders, we're knocking it out of the park. This is fantastic. It also allows you to say, well, this might not be working for all clients. How can we tweak that and make changes to our program design? And then finally, income is not a requirement at entry for rapid rehousing. And that, in a couple sense, that's true. It's typically, for the funding streams we see in this area, not an eligibility criteria for those funding streams. So it's unlikely that your rapid rehousing program has income as an eligibility criteria. But we also know that it's not necessarily a prerequisite to success. We know that households entering without income do succeed. We see that from anecdotal reports from you all, just talking about your clients, and from the data. It's not impossible to succeed in rapid rehousing without income. And that means that rapid rehousing, because of the lack of other, the limitations of other access to other housing types, the limitation of access to permanent supportive housing, the fact that we don't ever have enough long-term vouchers for folks, rapid rehousing can be the best chance of housing stability for most of the clients that are referred to you, and not having income shouldn't cut them out of that opportunity. And there are ways to work with clients that don't have income. So income is important, tracking income is important, but having income is not necessary when you come into a rapid rehousing program. And then finally, expectations for the approach to employment for most of the funding streams here is to offer that conversation early. We know that this is one of the most effective ways, not making clients talk about employment before they're ready, but like you do with housing stability planning, bring it up and offer the conversation, make sure that they know that there are resources out there that if they're interested at any point, you can connect them to, and then checking back in so you can really build employment in as part of their plan and their goal setting, making sure they know that that's available. Okay. So that's the end of my quick overview. I do hope that was familiar to a lot of you. I know that those are the things that we have come back to at all of the rapid rehousing targeted trainings that we have participated in. Right, so Art and Peter, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will continue advancing slides.
Awesome, thank you for doing that. And thanks for sharing. Thanks everyone again for joining us for this presentation we titled Vocationalizing the System. So as I said before, my name is Peter. I'm a youth career development specialist at JobTrain. My experience working with youth really ranges from working with elementary and middle school students as a tutor and teacher to working with young adults as an academic and wellness advisor. As a side note, I would say the most difficult and rewarding group I've ever worked with is the elementary age. That's just because they're so honest and they really lack a filter. Nonetheless, I've been fortunate enough to experience what it's like to work with individuals from a variety of different age groups and from different settings. At JobTrain, my role involves working within the guidelines of the federally funded WIOA program, which stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but I work specifically with individuals who meet the eligibility requirements for the WIOA program. And I've been doing that for just under 2 years now. So that's kind of a little background on me and my role.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Art.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I don't know what happened.
Got it.
Okay.
So
Continue on, Peter.
So actually, I just finished introducing myself. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little more.
Sure. I'm trying to, I can't seem to see my document. I'm so sorry here.
Um,
oh, hold on. Please bear with me 1 second here. Okay, so sorry about that. Now I'm in and ready to go. Hello everyone, my name is Art Taylor. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at JobTrain. I've spent the better part of my career in workforce development, designing programs, developing education and workforce strategies, and drafting county workforce development policy. I have also worked in education as a teacher and a trainer, curriculum developer, and a facility planner and designer. Now, I know that sounds a little odd, but I spent about 8 years as an architect and an urban planner. I arrived in California in 1990 when I was offered a job with the state to be a part of a team charged with the design and development of a facility in Long Beach. This program was designed for citizens who were homeless and had serious mental illnesses. This was my entry into the work with homeless individuals and their families. I provided strategy and planning across multiple sectors, including large corporations, philanthropic organizations, local and federal governments, civic organizations, and I've also done some work in healthcare. I've been with JobTrain for over 4 years now. So to this presentation, we know that this term for you all, in fact, there's no such a word as vocationalizing or vocationalization. However, it is our intent to coin this phrase as an approach to our work with the supportive housing providers and workforce development organizations alike. We're happy to have this opportunity to spend time with you this morning, and we thank you again for joining us. Can I just do a sound check to make sure everyone can hear me?
Okay, I can hear you, Art.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
You're good.
So I'll keep going. So during our time this morning, we want to tell you a little bit about JobTrain, who we are, who we serve, what we do, and how we do it. With a track record of over 55 years, we have mastered several strategies in providing workforce development programs, services, and supports for the communities that we serve. This COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of our work. We have all had to adapt the work that we do as case managers, direct service providers, and workforce development organizations. We want to share how JobTrain has adapted and responded to our current situation to best engage and serve our clients. We will conclude the first part of the presentation with a discussion on rapid employment, our process, and the services that we'll provide. During the second part of this presentation, we're going to elaborate a little more on what vocationalizing the system, self-efficacy, what both of those terms mean, and talk a little more about our partnership with Destination Home and the Office of Supportive Housing. I got a quick question for you. How many people in the Bay Area live in poverty? Is it 900,000, 1.4 million, 1.25 million, or 1.6 million?
Sorry, Art, the polling is a little bit delayed. Apologize for that.
Okay. So you want me to hold on a little bit?
Nicole, can you open up the first poll, please?
Just 1 second. Do you see the first poll?
Yeah, it's up. So go ahead and answer that question, and we'll keep it open until we see responses coming in. All right, Nicole, I think you can probably go ahead and close it if you're seeing responses coming in, and then share those responses.
I see. We've got quite a few that are saying that it's 1.4 million. The correct answer is 1.6 million. There are some serious pockets of poverty in the Bay Area, primarily in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. And so these tend to be the populations that are drawn to JobTrain, the populations that come to us for the programs and services that we provide. I set up that poll to kind of let you know about who JobTrain is. Next slide, please. JobTrain is a workforce development and training nonprofit. We've been around since 1964. We're founded by Reverend Leon Sullivan. This is a pastor from Philadelphia. We were formerly known as OICW, or Opportunities Industrialization Center West. We're an affiliate of OIC America, which has 34 chapters across the United States. In 1907, we changed our name from OICW to JobTrain. Our headquarters is located in Menlo Park. However, we have additional locations that we have opened. In 2017, I designed and developed our first satellite location, which is called the East Palo Alto Career Center. The East Palo Alto Career Center is located on the Amazon campus in East Palo Alto. And this year, we are really excited to open our San Jose location, which I will tell you more about in a few minutes. Our overall mission at JobTrain is to help those most in need succeed. We strive to improve the lives of people in our community by providing work readiness workshops, skills training, career training, supportive services, and job and career placement. Next.
So can you go back one actually? Just one slide back. Thank you. That's over there.
Like most of you, JobTrain has always been committed to helping everyone who walks through our door. We understand the need to support those groups who are low, very low income, or marginalized. For that reason, we continue to refine our methods and approach to better serve those clients who are most impacted and face significant barriers to education and employment. This aligns with our goal of producing opportunities and creating greater equity for the communities that we serve. We have always served opportunity youth, returning citizens from incarceration, and the homeless. However, we now are refining and expanding our efforts and are committed to serving more of these individuals. For example, we have a growing presence in the San Mateo County jails. When we first started our work in the jails, we had one culinary program that operated 1 day a week, and that was started back in 1997. 3 years ago, we expanded our programming to offer 7 programs, Monday through Friday, weekly, inside the San Mateo County jails. We have a pastry and culinary arts training program. We provide work readiness workshops and one-on-one success coaching. We facilitate cognitive behavioral intervention and substance abuse classes. And this past fall, I'm proud to say I've been working on this for about 2.5 years. This past year, we graduated our first cohort of construction pre-apprentice training. That was a real tough process because that involved tools, hammers, drills, and the like. So it's a real feat for us to be able to get that program off the ground and running. Next. As we work with our clients, we have a 4-tier model that we use in developing their individualized employment plan. These 4 stages help put our clients on a pathway towards career and economic mobility. The first stage is stabilization, or stability and foundation. We know that it's difficult to think about training, education, or employment when there are issues and barriers that need to be addressed so that the client has the room and the capacity to begin thinking about their future and getting on a pathway to self-sufficiency. As we build on the foundation, stability, we assess our clients' work readiness, work experience, their skills, competencies, and education to help us structure the individualized employment plan or the service plan that we'll be working with the clients on. We offer a variety of workshops and opportunities for clients to enhance their soft and hard skills. We offer career exploration and other assessments to help clients figure out what path they want to take, whether that be vocational, training, educational, or going directly into employment. Reading and math skills are critical components for success in most jobs. So we assess our clients to better understand their grade level. If a client needs to upgrade their skills in reading or math, or if they desire to get their GED or high school diploma, we guide them to our academic center or to other resources where they can address their needs. Additionally, we offer in-house career training courses and work experience. If a client has an interest outside of what we offer, we can easily refer them to another organization that aligns with their program interests. During this time, we continue to provide programs and services with the counselors. And it is that relationship that we have with these partner organizations that allows us to have open and accurate communication about our clients' progress. At the top of the tier, you see career advancement. We follow our clients for an entire year after they employ. Often our clients feel ready to advance in their career at their current job, or in some instances, change jobs with titles that require more responsibility and, of course, more money. So we work with them on strategies for advancement. This advancement may require that they learn additional skills. So we assist them in finding resources by which to attain those additional skills. Next. Key to client success in our programs, services, and supports is us helping them address their barriers. At JobTrain, we're fortunate to have a constellation of support and services at our locations. We're strategic in who we partner with and what we offer to each of our at each of our locations. We want to make sure that our partners provide top quality and relevant programs and services for the populations that we serve. So to address our clients' post-secondary education needs, we partner with Kenyatta College so that clients interested in pursuing higher education can easily enroll because Kenyatta is located in our building. We are the home of Kenyatta's satellite Menlo Park campus, which provides an accessible location for our clients to attend certificate and college courses. Our youth services, supported by NOVA, are provided to young adults living in San Mateo County. Youth can sign up for work experience placements to expose them to a variety of employment and career opportunities. If they choose another direction, we provide support and access to additional services. We also have an on-site supportive service center that helps clients access public benefits and other resources that may present barriers to employment or education. One of those in-demand services is childcare. We have a childcare center on site to support students with young children ages 3 to 5. Students that are enrolled in our courses have access to these supportive services. These services, along with the majority of the supportive services that we have, are available to our students as well as community. Supportive services are generally offered at no cost or on a sliding scale based on an individual's income. We also have a resource center where we provide job seekers support, creating resumes, attending workshops, work readiness workshops, assessing our job boards, and access to technology. So this is the gist of what we identify as our career center model, which I'll get into a little later. Job seekers are also made aware of and invited to employer hiring events that we host weekly. It's important for me to note that these services are not stagnant. They fluctuate based on the demand that we hear from our clients and the demand that we hear from our community. JobTrain is accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges and the Bureau of Post-Secondary Education. Next. Here we have our current training options that we offer at JobTrain. Our medical assisting and carpentry program, which we call Project Build, are far the most popular programs that we have. There's always a waiting list for these programs. And for the past several years, these programs and careers have increased and on demand in our marketplace. They are popular and pay very good wages, starting at between $20 and $30 an hour. Our Certified Nursing Assistant program and our Culinary Arts program are two of the most accessible programs for persons with criminal records. Our IT services and support training is our tech program, and it offers the highest starting salaries of all of our training programs, $35 to $50 an hour. As I mentioned earlier, we adjust our career training offerings based on market demand, emerging industries, client demand, and pay. We strive to offer training with starting pay no less than $18 an hour and positions that have a brisk track to increase hourly wages and advancement in the position. We had a program that you see listed here called our Construction Fundamentals Program. That is our laborers program, which is an offering that we have along with our carpentry program. The Laborers Fundamental Training Program, we assessed that program, and what we found is that clients consistently reported low wages and not a clear pathway toward advancement and upward mobility. So as for now, we have discontinued that career pathway. However, we have replaced it with a building maintenance technician career pathway, and soon to add property management career training to that pathway. We listen to employers and consult groups of employers in industries to advise us on their employment needs, their employee needs, and trends in the industry, and the skills required to meet those current and future needs. With this information, we deliberate on strategies to adjust what we offer and with whom we partner to meet the industry market demands. Now, I want to just take a moment right here to say that I'm telling you about JobTrain and what we provide because it is our intent to bring the same type of services, the same approach to our work in Santa Clara County. So it's really important for you to understand and to know what these different components and services are, because those will be made available in Santa Clara County as we move through our relationship with the Office of Supportive Housing and Destination Home. You look at some of our outcomes. We like to brag on those a bit. In 2019, our enrollment numbers took a slight dip, and that was due to the change in the adjustment that we made in our Laborers Fundamentals Training Program, which we switched to our Building Maintenance Technician Program, and we did some retooling of our IT pathway. However, our completion and graduation rates have remained pretty consistent year after year. We continue to strive to increase the average wage earnings. However, as many of you know, they are not rising as quickly enough to sustain many of our clients living in the Bay Area. And with this COVID-19 epidemic, this is projected to get even worse. So I got a quick question for everyone. Can we put the poll question up? Yeah. So how much does a family of four have to make to live in the Bay Area? So a little clue for you here. It's just slightly above the poverty level. Show me your responses.
We're getting responses coming in. About half of folks have responded. I'll give you another 10 seconds. Yep. Keep those responses coming in, and I'm going to close the poll. 3, 2, 1.
Spread out.
Well, the responses are spread out. However, the response that received 24% is actually $139,600. Now, it's important to note that that figure last year was $127,300. So there's a huge shift in the cost of living to be able to stay in the Bay Area. And so the work that we're doing in providing employment services and support is needed much more now than ever. And again, we all right now are calculating what the response is going to be in the wake of COVID-19. I'm sitting on several task force right now for us to be able to identify what are going to be the emerging industries, what are going to be employers' needs, what are the skills that are going to be provided, because we are going to need to make sure that individuals that were laid off and are not going to be rehired, or those individuals that were trying to get in the workforce, that they have a way of getting into the workforce with the skills and the competencies that they have. And so the work that we're going to be doing is been made a little more difficult by this epidemic. And so we want to stay on top of it in order to make sure that we have a clarity and understanding around where the market is taking us, what employment opportunities are going to be in demand, and how we can tool and or retool the clients that we serve to be positioned to be able to take those positions and compete for those positions. So for a few years now, we have been cultivating a relationship with organizations, Office of Supportive Housing, Destination Home, and Life Moves. As I said earlier, we have always worked with clients who were homeless or living in homeless shelters. We have provided them with employment services. However, as of recent, we have been asked to work more closely with organizations like the Office of Supportive Housing and Destination Home, organizations providing shelter services, who work very closely with the homeless and the informally homeless clients. For a few years now, we've been cultivating this relationship with Life Moves and Destination Home. And this year, the planets have aligned. We are providing rapid employment services, a model I'll discuss in a second, with a number of individuals living in Life Moves shelters, many of whom were scheduled to be discharged right before this shelter-in-place directive came down. However, Life Moves decided that they would allow those individuals to remain in the shelter until the directive was lifted. So those individuals, once this directive is lifted, those individuals will be in need of employment and employment services. Some of the clients that were in the shelter were employed, but they were furloughed indefinitely, while others had not found employment. Both of the groups require employment preparation and job search support. JobTrain is providing that support. We're extremely excited about our relationship with Destination Home and the Office of Supportive Housing, and working with the County of Santa Clara. We have mapped out a 2-year strategy of work in Santa Clara County. So this is the strategy that we are taking as we move into the county. In the first year, year 1, we will employ our rapid employment model. So we may have engaged some of you already with clients that you have referred to our program. So this rapid employment model, we're really focusing it on the rapid rehousing individuals. This model is designed to take an individual through our intake process up through the first 90 days and get that client work ready and placed in a position earning good wages. And so we're looking at this in a 90-day approach, which is based on our rapid employment model. We take the client with the skills that they have and we match them with employers who are looking for candidates with those skills. So this is a matching process. We do our best to make sure that we understand who the hiring managers are, who the decision makers are in these companies, and we make a direct handoff to our clients so that they can then get in through the door and begin to compete for those positions. And so this is a different approach from the traditional approach of getting a person work ready, getting them the tools, and then having them go out and navigate their own job search. So this career center approach actually walks the client through that whole process. I mentioned to you that we're moving to San Jose. And we are really, really excited and have secured a location at the San Jose Conservation Corps located at 1560 Burger Road. We feel this location is perfect for our work in that there are offices there, there are classrooms there, there's computer labs there. And all of these opportunities are available for us where we can conduct workshops and eventually career training. I'm going to pause right here to see if there are any questions based on the information that I've provided. I want to emphasize that it is our objective and approach to phase in the programs and services that we're offering in Santa Clara County. And so if you have any questions about kind of what that phasing looks like, what that process looks like, please let me know. We are designated to work primarily right now with rapid rehousing clients. And so those individuals that are in permanent supportive housing, those individuals we are not currently working with. And that's not to say that we won't be working with them in the future, but our entree into this is to work with the rapid rehousing clients. Okay,
We're not seeing any questions at the moment, Art, but folks, if you do have questions for JobTrain about anything that you hear, go ahead and type them in the chat box.
So our efforts and process of enrollment have not changed.
Oh, actually, Art, we did just get a question coming in.
Okay.
Just the question is it a correct understanding that your niche is traditionally been youth, formerly incarcerated, and people who are unhoused or experiencing homelessness, and not people currently unemployed due to COVID-19? Is that accurate?
So it actually is a combination of everything. We traditionally work with adults. We have a youth program, which Peter is a part of. That program is connected to NOVA and is a WIOA program. As I mentioned, we do work inside the San Mateo County jails, and so I've got a career vocational navigator that I've placed into the jail, and that navigator basically is there to take individuals that are 30 days from being released, and that navigator makes a plan with those individuals while they're still incarcerated. Once they are released, the navigator is there at the door, picks them up, and helps navigate them to the programs and services that they've established that they need while they're incarcerated. And so I mentioned a little earlier, we do work with homeless individuals and people that are currently experiencing homelessness. It's been a smaller part of the population that we've worked with. And so when I talk about us increasing our efforts in this space, I'm talking about this work in Santa Clara County with you all, Destination Home and the Office of Supportive Housing. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, we have a question that may or may not be able to answer. The question is, who are some of the employment decision makers? Are there also decision makers in Santa Clara County offices or other folks at state and local levels? I'm not sure I fully understand what that question is there.
Yeah, can I get a little clarification real quickly?
Dale, you have anything clarifications on that question? Not quite sure what you're asking.
Sure thing, Eli. So yeah, my question really pertains to just some additional examples of decision makers when trying to tie clients into employment opportunities. That was, I think, mentioned either one or two slides before this one, prior to the need. And so I was just wondering if you'd be able, Art, to talk more about some of those key decision makers, maybe an example or two of what that looks like.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're talking inside in a company or in employment, opportunity. Oftentimes, we have to understand and identify the structure of how that decision-making process works. Traditionally, we have always gone to HR because we felt that the human resources department, they're the ones that are making these decisions, that are vetting these clients. As of late, we have noticed that there has been a real shift to move that responsibility and that engagement down to individuals that may be running, maybe heads of departments or running departments. And so what's important for us is, as we're assessing that company and we're looking at the different positions that would best match the skills and expertise of the clients that we're seeing, that drives us to maybe it is the culinary department, or a subcontractor that has been hired to vet and hire individuals in a specific department of a company. And so it's really taking a more expansive look at how the company is structured and how they disperse the decision-making requirements. Now, that's not to say that we don't engage HR. We have to engage HR, because a part of what we're trying to do is we're also trying to influence them in how they think about the clients that we work with. And so oftentimes that requires educating them on who our population is and some best strategies for working with that population. I hope that answered your question.
And it looks like there's another question, but just to go back to Jenny, sorry, really fast, the second half of her question, which is not people currently unemployed due to COVID-19. We do, if somebody is affected by COVID-19, they're able to, apply to JobTrain, and we can do an online referral process to our supportive services center where they can, get access to support they may need. But I don't think there's a separate population from youth formerly incarcerated and homeless that are just COVID-19, right? I think that COVID-19, the people that are affected by COVID-19 are all these populations and others. So we're still, in a sense, helping those populations, if that answers that question.
Yeah, and we did get one other question in. This is probably gonna be our last question now, because just for a time check, we're running a little over and we want to get to that break. So question is, you mentioned your San Jose location will be in the same campus as Conservation Corps. Is that correct? How will that work with two programs on the same property? And when we want to refer clients to the San Jose location when it is ready, what's the best way to go about that?
So yes, we're located in the San Jose Conservation Corps, and we really don't see any big distinction and or competition with the organizations that are in the facility. Our strive is to create an ecosystem of services and supports that helps the client in any way possible. And so if a client is walking through that San Jose Conservation Corps and they find that this program over here is much more aligned with what it is that they're interested in doing, we will support that. And if we need to make a referral to that organization or to that entity, we will do so. And so the big thing that I like about that San Jose location is that there are organizations that are doing the same thing that we're doing. And we just think that it's an advantage for us to be in an ecosystem like that. Okay, I think we should probably move on. I have lost where my slide was. Oh, okay, all right. So I'm going to try to get through this real quickly. All right, so we have had conversations and have engaged many of you since the beginning of our outreach operations in January, which are, I'm sorry, you skip, go to the next page, please. Thank you. While traditional methods, I just mentioned this, while traditional methods of operation have been greatly affected by the shelter-in-place order, we continue to provide recruitment, outreach, and engagement activities and provide referrals to services and supports using what we're all using right now on the telephone, conference calls, and any type of web-based method to connect with the clients and with you, the case managers. You have may seen us present or be present at trainings and standing meetings. This is our attempt to make sure that we stay informed on the activities that are going on within the supportive housing community. This is also an opportunity for us to inform you on the process and the strategies that we're employing to continue to meet the commitment to the rapid rehousing community, and of course the metrics that we have set for ourselves. We've developed this referral form, which I hope many of you have seen, and we've developed this process by which we provide instruction, an introduction to the client and to you, the case manager. This is where the conversation begins. Clients can refer themselves or can be referred by their case manager. Our relationship with you, the case manager, is key so that there is a coordinated web of support with the clients as they progress through their steps of employment. Next, please. So let's talk a little bit about client enrollment. Our efforts and process for enrollment have not changed. We're performing client intakes through conference calls and Zoom video sessions. Now, I need to be honest with you. This has presented some challenges in that some of our assessment questions have been met as too intrusive, basically because they may be talking to someone whom they have never met or have never seen. Our staff has adjusted and or postponed asking some of these assessment questions based on the feedback that we've received. The assessment tool that we have is designed to establish a baseline of information on the client's skills, their employment history, their barriers to education, and what type of work for which the client is really looking to do. We develop an individual employment plan with each of our clients. We involve the case managers and our staff as well. The primary objective is to have a firm understanding of what programs and services the client needs and to put them on a pathway to education and or employment. As we define the initial goals of the individual employment plan, we set benchmarks for ourselves, 30, 60, and 90 days. As I mentioned earlier, we start out with a 90-day plan because that is the rapid employment approach model. From the initial intake through 90 days, the objective is to have that person work ready and employed. You'll see I've listed career self-efficacy assessment in red. This is a tool that JobTrain is developing and testing right now. Once we are ready to go live, we hope to return to you for a deeper discussion on the assessment tool and how understanding the purpose and the goal of that assessment can support much of the work that you're doing with your clients. Next. At JobTrain, work readiness and job development begin at intake. And this is an area where we hope to help advise you. The information gathered during the employment assessment and subsequent conversations that we have with the clients and you on their interests and the skills that they have to perform effectively on a job is a real key component of the individual employment plan. If a client lacks the skills and or tools that they need, we begin scheduling workshops and one-on-one sessions to help them get the tools that they need so that they are work ready. Now, I'm really excited about a tool, and I'm just going to touch on this. I've been evaluating a tool for about the last 4 months, and this is a tool that's really designed for our Career Center. I don't know if many of you have heard about it. It's called Career Edge. It is an online portal that a client and or their case manager can guide through a number of different areas that help an individual get work ready. One of the cool parts about this is there's an interview simulator. And basically what we're hearing from the employment community is that even though the restrictions on shelter in place are going to be lifted, many companies are saying that they are going to continue with this distant work and strategies for being able to do a lot of things remotely. This also means that interviewing is going to be done remotely as well. And so this interview simulator on this Career Edge technology, basically it asks the question, a live person asks the question, and the client has an opportunity to practice how they would respond to a question sitting in front of a computer. If they feel that they didn't answer a question correctly, they could hit on the help button and an individual comes up and gives them a way that they could better answer the question. The other cool thing about this is that employers have access to the back end of this tool as well. And so if an employer wants to list a job opportunity on the system, they can do that. And they can actually add the specific questions that they want to have answers to. The employer then can go onto the site and identify individuals that have gone through that interview simulator and that have asked the question. So this is really, really exciting. I'm completely fired up about it at JobTrain. We're assessing the tool right now, and we're getting close to actually starting a number of pilots in our career centers. One of those pilots will occur in Santa Clara County at our Santa Clara location. And so stay tuned, more to come on this, but I am really, really excited about this tool and about this opportunity. Next slide, please. So we as I mentioned, we follow our clients for 12 months after they've been employed. During these check-ins, we generally check in quarterly, but clients have access to us at any time. So during these check-ins, we often hear and help and assist clients with any challenging issues that they have at work, if they need some referrals, if something is going on in the home and they need some support. We're able to be there to triage any of those situations that occur. This to us is a process that we do at JobTrain, and this to us for us really helps us in what we call the retention phase, and that is making sure that we are there to provide any supports that our clients need once they've been employed. So right here, I think it's time for our break. Am I correct?
Yes, we're going to
that's
let you
correct.
all take a little bit of a break just to stretch your legs, get some water if you need it. We're going to make this break 4 minutes. We're running a little long on time, so we're going to give you a brief break. And I'm also going to throw a poll up on the screen, so go ahead and leave now, but when you come back, make sure you let us know you're back on the poll. We're going to start right at 4 minutes from now.
Oh, whoa.
You're coming back from break. I appreciate y'all letting us know that you're coming back from break. I'm going to give folks another few seconds to return, and when we have most people back, we'll get started. Excellent. It looks like we do have most people back now. So we are going to pick up where we left off. And Art, whenever you are ready.
I am ready.
Awesome.
All righty. So let's go on to the second part of this presentation. We advance the slide, Eli. Now we're going to get into this whole notion and concept of vocationalizing the system. We know that this information is a little dense. But part of what we want to do is we want to make sure that we set the stage for you so that in the subsequent conversations that we have, that we can expound on what we're talking about and how we can start recognizing some of this stuff. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Yeah, next slide. So back in December of last year, you may have remembered that we had a series of focus groups. And in those focus groups, we posed a question to the case managers. We also met with a number of clients. We met with a lived experience council as well, and we gathered information. So our direction and our approach in coming to Santa Clara County is that we needed to listen first so that we knew how to best structure our programs. So in December when we met, we posed questions to you to give us some feedback and information based on your experience with the clients. We asked you, what do you think your client needs? What should we take into consideration when we're beginning our collaboration work with the client and with you, the case manager? And so from those responses from the meeting that we had with the case managers, these are some of the central themes that came up. People emphasize the notion of trust, having a trusted coach. Steps to help clients build confidence and to be motivated. Establishing plans based on their interests and in taking into consideration barriers and goals. We heard the desire for clear career pathways. Some clients may not be ready to take action yet, and so that was important for us to hear so that we know how we can develop and design our work readiness services in order to address those needs. And then there was this whole notion of confidence and support and resources. So these keywords are really, really important as we move through this process, because what we took from the information that we received and what we've heard from you in your focus group and what we heard from the lived experience group and what we heard from some of the other groups that are located inside the homeless service provider organizations, we took all that information and we needed to take some action. And so this next part of this conversation is going to talk about the action that we're taking in order to better understand the client population, better design and provide services for the population, and to address some of those underlying questions and needs of confidence and motivation and setting goals. Peter, next slide.
And the framework that we have so that we are more proactive and intentional in our approach and working with our clients, right? So we know that data is a huge driver of how we operate at JobTrain. We use this data to determine what the market demands are if that's needed. We can then adjust our career trainings and offerings to make sense to what's desirable in the market and what our clients are looking for. We also use data to track our outcomes and progress year after year. And here we wanted to analyze the data we've obtained so that we can identify the best approach for getting the population you serve and who we serve work ready and rapidly employed. While we have all heard many success stories of people who were formerly homeless and who now have successful careers, we want to do more to analyze this data and look more at the statistics we received and the information collected with the hope of developing work readiness models that work best for the populations for whom we're working with. Our approach to this work is client-centered. We know that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to working with this population. That is why we take great strides to better understand the client's self-efficacy and what events or situations they've encountered that may have an effect on their beliefs about their ability to be successful in the employment setting. So that being said, I'm going to jump into vocationalizing the system. Art, did you just want me to read this piece here? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
I'm just going to read this. So, vocationalizing the system and what it implies. So, pretty much, vocationalizing the system implies that there is a proactive, relevant, and quality role case managers and frontline staff can play in the readiness of their clients for employment. So, it is not necessary that case managers know how to facilitate a formal vocational evaluation. However, an understanding of the purpose and goals of an evaluation, along with an understanding of how their clients view their ability to meet challenges and competencies for work, can provide cues for how to best engage our clients from the very beginning of the intake process to program exit. If employment and self-sufficiency is the ultimate goal, then having the tools to understand a client's job or career self-efficacy can help guide case managers, employment specialists, job developers, and rapid employment organizations, all working cohesively to create individualized employment plans for their clients. So next slide. So we have to first understand what is career vocational self-efficacy, right? So career vocational self-efficacy can be understood as an individual's perception of their ability, knowledge of tasks, and beliefs about their capabilities to be effective and competent on the job. The key thing to understand is that self-efficacy weighs heavy on a client's belief system, all right? So we as case managers need to understand how a client views their capability to not only perform a task or job, but also how to meet their challenges at work. This sense of capability is tied into a client's belief system about themselves and their own potential. That belief system and how it affects an individual's perception of their ability to be successful can be understood as a client's self-efficacy. The individual's ability to then be successful in an occupational position or career can then be understood as their career self-efficacy. So to clarify that, because I know it's dense, a client's belief system and how it shapes their perception of their ability to be successful in a career is career self-efficacy. So we as case managers are utilizing the understanding of this belief system along with its effectors and the visual cues that hint us to where a client may be in their level of career self-efficacy to develop client-conscious employment strategies that will promote employment and self-sufficiency. This may sound a lot like confidence, right? Yes and no. So the difference between self-efficacy and confidence, well, there is a difference between them. But while self-efficacy and self-confidence are overlapping with each other, self-confidence refers to the trust or belief a client has that they can do a job or achieve something. Whereas self-efficacy is the belief a client has that they can be successful and competent at a job without being overwhelmed. So I just kind of want you guys to think about that, right? What's the difference? What difference exists from if you ask the client, can they do a job versus if they think they can be successful at it, right? So doing a job could summarize as having a particular set of skills, whereas being successful at a job could encompass a larger amount of factors that we're not thinking about at the moment. So it's important to understand that self-efficacy has to do with belief in one's capability because a belief can change at any point in time. Let's take an example. So let's look at anxiety in work, right? For someone who suffers from anxiety, their ability and skill set to do a job may be adequate and up to par. However, their anxiety could cause them to doubt themselves and their ability to effectively perform a job, thus affecting their career self-efficacy. Confidence in this case, confidence in the skills remain the same here, but belief in self and their abilities does not for the client. There are several other factors that can affect the client's self-efficacy as addressed in self-efficacy theory, but we're going to talk about that at a later time. And for now, we're going to move into some of the effects we'll see that come with a low level of self-efficacy. So there are cues that we can look for that can be correlated with a low level of self-efficacy. Some of the cues are listed here, such as avoidance and unchallenging goal setting. Avoidance could look like an individual not applying themselves out of fear of failure or mistake, such as the example I presented earlier about anxiety. Something interesting to point out here is that the fear of failing may not be directly associated with not doing a job properly. Instead, it could be associated with having a panic attack in the middle of a project while at work and then having to leave work and go home. In this sense, the fear of failure has to do with fear of failure and self-control and making a fool of oneself or being embarrassed. This could cause a client to avoid more situations like this in the future or the client can become angry at themselves for not being normal, quote unquote normal, or not being able to quote unquote be like everyone else, which can lead to quitting on themselves and setting easily attainable goals rather than challenging ones to avoid the possibility of failure in the future. This could also lead to difficult career decision making for them, obviously. The idea here is that while working with our clients, there are identifiable cues that we can utilize along with the understanding of what career self-efficacy is, that we can use to develop more effective, individualized employment plans with a focus on promoting client advancement and engagement. These plans can be catered to client needs with the potential of strengthening the belief system of our clients to reinforce their self-sufficiency and prosperity in the future. That's just touching in on what self-efficacy is and what are some of the key cues that we can look for in terms of a low self-efficacy. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move into a breakout group discussion.
Actually, Peter, I would suggest for time, so that we can have a full discussion as we want to have, that we do this in the full group rather than in breakouts. We do have the breakouts set up, but to sort of streamline it so we have time for questions and discussion, why don't we try this over the chat feature like we've been doing? Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think that
No
makes
worries,
sense.
let's do that.
Great.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is gonna, when Art poses the questions, just chime in on the chat and we'll be here to help you out with that. So go for it.
Okay, great. So based on what we've discussed, and as you look at your day-to-day interactions with the clients that you work with, what activities do you perform that enable you to identify your client's level of self-efficacy? What are the different tools that you use to evaluate a client's self-efficacy? What are some of the tools that you use to increase a client's self-efficacy? And let's just kind of brainstorm some other ways that we can increase a client's self-efficacy. And so we are talking about that view of themselves, their ability to be successful, their ability to move forward, their ability to set goals. What are some of the ways that you use in order to kind of pull out key components of a client's self-efficacy? Now, this could be some of the activities that you do with your clients. This could be observations in meetings. So it takes it's a range there. But there are cues that clients are giving us. And so part of what we want to do is we want to drill down and see where we can identify those cues so that in knowing those cues, we can develop a way of being able to increase and improve that self-efficacy.
So do we want to give them maybe 2 or 3 minutes to think about it and type in the chat, or are we just talk? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead and think about that. As you have thoughts, type them in the chat box. And also, if you have any questions about what Peter and Art have presented, feel free to pose those in the chat as well.
Absolutely. The material can be dense, so appreciate you.
Yeah, so I'm seeing some thoughts coming in. Listening to how clients describe their challenges to promote self-efficacy, talking about solution seeking or taking on more responsibilities and risks, talking about that with clients. Some other tools and strategies, discussion around resume. Some feel uncomfortable talking about their experience or hide their resume, don't want to focus on that. Then asking clients questions about why, well, what was the reason that you did X when you quit or left a job or walked off a job, for example, getting at the reasons for past exits from jobs.
Okay, let's wait for a couple more.
If you have other thoughts or just want to chime in to support anything that folks have already said, go ahead and put that in the chat. Even if this is a new concept, the idea of client self-efficacy, I can tell that a lot of you have seen this happening with your clients, and I can recognize that from your work. So I'm taking note of the sort of verbiage that clients are using, excuses versus planning language. Helps to assess how motivated clients are based on their perceived benefits of employment, which makes a lot of sense. Benefits maybe being not being homeless anymore, feeling accomplished. Really emphasizing with how difficult and fearful it is to look for a job, get rejections. Yeah, that makes sense. We can all relate to that, I think. Encourage goal setting, but specifically smaller doable goals, which is something that yeah, we hear a lot can be really effective with clients. I'm getting a comment in, when evaluating with a client, always ask questions that are not about employment, like their well-being, and sooner or later in that one-on-one, employment is brought up. So not necessarily leading with employment, but building that rapport. Makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I'm also seeing a comment, maybe understanding their Myers-Briggs personality type as a tool for understanding their motivations. Yeah, using like verbal words of encouragement, saying you can do it out loud. Always helpful to hear that.
And these are all valid. They're, you know, perfect. We all do it. So part of what, you know, if there's a phase 2 of this, we would hope to talk about are things like how mirroring, right, and how motivational words can affect self-efficacy, and actually how some of them can negatively affect it, and we're actually not considering that, right? And just a brief example would be setting a goal for a client that we think is small, but that they might see as big, right? Because we're not considering where the client is in their current belief system. But that's something we can talk about at a later time.
So another thing that we will talk about at a later time is that there's a notion of how we are looking at the client self-efficacy as case managers, and how the client themselves views their self-efficacy. And oftentimes, some of the elements may align and others may not. But it's important for us as case managers to sort of check ourselves and make sure that we're viewing the client self-efficacy through their lens and not through ours. That's really, really key through this process.
Yes. And something else would be, you know, establishing the relationship setting for a client, right? I mean, and developing the relationship. We can give them a million tools, but if they're not invested in the process and they don't feel a connection to you, they may not be effective at all. So a key thing here is, you know, identifying the belief system, but working with them on developing a setting where they feel comfortable and they feel like hey, I can do this now. So that's another portion of it.
So the primary reason that we are approaching this situation and this effort in this way is because we are in this rapid employment model. We know that many of our clients have taken jobs, have been successful, and then something may happen, an event may happen, and then they're no longer employed, or they lose their job. And so that event right there can affect an individual's self-efficacy. And so the reason it's important for us to understand this early on and to be able to take some action to help the client increase their self-efficacy. The reason that's important is because we're in this rapid employment model. And we know that many of your clients, they have a time frame by which they have that supportive housing. And so we need to move as brisk as possible in order to make sure that we can understand where the client is and then do that work with the client and with the case manager in order to make sure that we can get to a point. So when we're at that 90 days, we've got an individual that's work ready. Now that work may be part-time, that work may be a couple hours a week, but in that individualized employment plan, we identify what those progressive benchmarks are for the client, and that's how we work to support the client through their pathway to employment and or to a career. And so this is a real key component for us. We mentioned a little earlier that we are developing a tool at JobTrain so that we can better assess exactly where a client's self-efficacy is. Now, that tool is not going to be the end all and the be all. We're going to need case managers to understand what the goals and the purpose of a self-efficacy assessment so that you can feed us information that may not have presented itself in the assessment tool. And so this is really this has to be a real collaborative effort between the two of us and other serving organizations. We really have to kind of be aligned and understand what we're all talking about, what we're all looking for, and some tools and strategies by which to draw that out and put into place a strategy for addressing the self-efficacy of the clients that we work with.
Yes.
And so I mentioned earlier, there's a series of workshops that we have that are going to delve more deeply into this whole notion of self-efficacy. And when we talk about vocationalizing the system, I'm just going to pull it all together for you. When we talk about vocationalizing the system, that says taking all of the comments that you all wrote into the chat box. It means that we take all of that information and we put that into a structure or a model that helps us be able to help the client in their efforts towards education or employment or a career that they're really interested in pursuing for themselves. And so when we vocationalize the system, that means that when we begin our intake and we have our engagements and our interactions with our clients, we're looking for those self-efficacy tools. We're looking for those cues, We're looking for those, and we are sharing those in this in that wraparound constellation that we have with the clients. We take that information and we're all sharing that information as we develop that strategy for that plan for that client. And so it's a pretty holistic what we're attempting to do here. And if we can all understand what the objective is, then we can make sure that as we have in these interactions, we are looking for those cues. So that's the big goal that we want to pursue with these efforts.
Yeah. And one last thing to add is that, in this process, we're always looking for progression, right? So by working on this self-efficacy idea, after 90 days, when a client has a job, if they lose that job, we want them, it's okay to fall back, right? But we don't want them to fall back to where they were at the beginning. And if they do, that's okay. But the goal is to start building the foundation so that if they do get let go or they do get fired, they say, hey, I've been here before and I have these skills. I can go and apply to another job. I can do this, to develop that self-sufficiency so that they don't end up, quitting or giving up on themselves.
Yeah, I know I keep using the benchmark of 90 days. This is just a part of the model and the strategy. It may take, 100 days for a specific client. It may take 120 days for a specific client. But we need to establish some benchmarks so that we know how we can work together in concert with one another in order to move the client forward. And so establishing the benchmarks, the 30, the 60, the 90 days, that is just a tool and part of the model that we use so that we have some concrete goals that we're reaching and we're helping the client reach.
We
So
actually have a question coming in about the once clients have gone through intake, will they be assigned a one-on-one coach at JobTrain to build that connection and to build a plan? How does that work?
That is correct. And so I didn't talk very much about the staffing structure that we have at the San Jose location. We've got a regional director and we've got two employment specialists. Everybody has been in the system. Most of them have worked in rapid rehousing or with the Office of Supportive Housing or in education. And so those are that's the backbone of the staffing that we have in the San Jose office. And so each individual that we're working with will have a direct case. We don't like to call them case managers because you use that term. They'll have a direct employment specialist that they will work with that'll help guide them through their process and help them develop their plans. And so that individual is there for the client and that individual is there for the case manager. And so when we do this whole intake process, we want to make sure that the case managers are involved as well, which is why we try to schedule these conference calls so that we can begin in this process of doing that intake and then doing that assessment so that we're continuing to move ourselves forward. And so it makes it a little difficult because it's not as personal as someone being face-to-face with a client and with a case manager and having this fluid conversation. We're doing all of this stuff over technology, over Zoom, and it's posing a few challenges for us, but we don't want to be stagnant and we don't want the client's motivation to be stagnant. So we're doing what we can to continue to keep up that engagement so that once this thing is lifted and we phase ourselves into more direct contact, that we're not starting from ground one.
Are there any other questions about JobTrain, about how any of the services will work? Give people a chance to type out questions if they have them.
Sure.
And if there aren't any questions, we're just coming up on time to wrap up. So as I talk, if you're still typing a question, keep going and we'll get to you. But I just want to thank Art and Peter so much for your presentation and for the work that you're doing. And I also want to thank from home base everyone who's on the training today, both for being here and for working with us, and also for the work that you're doing with your clients and with the community. We value you so much. So thank you for that.
Eli,
Mm-hmm.
This is Art. Peter and I were working on our deck last evening and we completely forgot the contact page with our contact information on it. Eli, if you don't mind just sending an email including Peter and my contact email address, we can get that to everyone so that if there's additional questions that they have or requests, then we want to make sure that they have a direct line to pose those to us.
Absolutely, yeah, we can send that out definitely. And we'll also be sending out the slides from the training today and the recording of the training once we get that all set up.
Perfect.
So another thing that you'll be getting from us with that packet of slides is a link to a feedback survey. We really, really genuinely appreciate your feedback on the trainings always. Specifically, we know that this is going to be a learning curve for us in these COC trainings, doing Zoom-based trainings for you all, and we definitely welcome your feedback on how that went. There's obviously some things that we are also already very aware of that we're going to be working on for next week's training, which I want to plug again. So next week, we're going to be working with the Office of Supportive Housing and the County Behavioral Health Services, as well as some case managers who work with clients in behavioral health, on a training that will go over the behavioral health services that are available in Santa Clara County, both mental health and substance use treatment, as well as some discussion and a little bit of a role play presentation for you on how to talk with clients about behavioral health and their behavioral health needs. So with that, thank you all so much. Thank you to JobTrain. And Peter, unless you have final comments, I think we're going to let folks go.
Thank you all for having us, and we really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Likewise, thank you all so much.